are present. Web of Science has a little bit less, are more restrictive in terms of publications, while Scopus is a little bit more wider. And but also patents, citation, top percentage publications, and so on are important. So if we look at surveys, which are of course very important, and I think and it counts a lot in some of the rankings. But here are some quotes I think is important. The university is not exactly what it is, but how people see it, right? So reputation is important. And so also good is not good enough unless you are known to be good. And having this in mind in terms of how to profile yourself, of course also in general how the organization is working, this is really worth to have in mind. But that also means, let's say, typically older universities and maybe also more English-speaking universities, they have an advantage compared with universities which are not speaking English. So in general, we have to be aware of the reputation and whether we want to be one or the other car and what kind of profile we have. So that's important strategically to be worked on. And also, if you want to be present in the rank, it's also important to be active, meaning that most of the systems which are doing rankings, they ask also for data for you to submit. And here are QS times higher education carry rate and so on. You have to be in mind that the correct data are there and not big things. And then we have indicators, which are also a good number to look at in terms of how you are coming out. And if you look at main indicators I have some for the different ranking system, you can say here is for time higher education, research reputation, research income, publication per faculty member, citations per publication. You can see this is a very, very important one in this case, as well as you also have external funding. But in general, I think it's really interest to have that. And then the score gives 100 to number 1, and then there is a distribution like this. You have the number of universities out of the x-axis and the score out of the y-axis. If you have the Shanghai ranking, for example, where, for example, we have been challenged to be there. For example, they have a lot of focus on nature and science. Number of publications, so big ones are important, so they will get a high stand, highly cited researchers, and then Nobel Prizes, field medals counts a lot, and then also academic performance. But for example, the Nobel Prizes, so if you have got Nobel Prizes 100 years ago, then your ranking will be higher than if you don't have anybody, despite that maybe if you are a new one, you could also have very, very strong people and activities. US News is another one, reputation, and then it's around 25% research data, which are gathered from Web of Science. You can see they weight in different ways. We have QS, which is also here today. Reputation counts almost 50%, so that means how you profile yourself are important. But then there are others which are taken from the databases. And what comes more on that is that the QS weight differently now. I'm sorry, this is from 2018, but just to say that you can see, depending on if you're in engineering or in arts and humanities, it counts really different. And I think it has something to do with what data are available. Then we have another one, perspective university ranking, where teaching and learning is one part, internationalization is another part. Metrics, which is coming from, especially from Google, and also some data given by some of the databases around in the internet. If we look at older university, As I told, we move to it strategically. So here you can see our rankings in US News, in Times Higher Education, National Taiwan University. And for example, you can see US News ranking. We have been relatively profiled in some areas. Engineering, we are number 4 in 2019. Electrical and electronic engineering, we are number 2 in the world. But also in the last years, when Times Higher Education have come with sustainable development goals, how good are we to fulfill that? We have been well doing. QS ranking has also a lot of indicators. I'll not go more into that. But let me just end my presentation here today to say what we did to be relatively high ranked in sustainable development goals. We are number 1 in one of them. In the sustainable development goal, but we also high ranked in what we call impact ranking in the Times Higher Education, as well as also the green metric, where a lot of efforts have been put on, let's say, to make a sustainable world. And this is due to our teaching, this is due to how we do our operation, and this is due to how we do our research. So here you can see what we call the Sustainable Development Goals rankings for Aalborg University, where in the last 3 or 4 years we have put more focus on it. We have an overall ranking of being number 6, but we are number 1 in quality education. We are number 2 in clean water and sanitation. So and that has been done because we are providing the data into the system, but also work with it actively in the organization. So how has this been done in the university? First, in 2019, there was a working group where, in order to have enough data to support what is needed to get this, in 2020, both a working group and a reference group was established. And in 2021, there was a reference group, a working group, and then a report group also. Now you can see the numbers of members who have been participating. So more and more are involved and engaged, and I think that's very, very important. And then, of course, also because of that, we understood the methodology, and then we were putting things into the system. So why work with ranking? Of course, because of visibility. Also because the numbers are often calculated by others, so you can use this internally, and you can also follow somehow the progress, as well improve, and maybe even create an internal spirit. It's a kind of acknowledgement if you do well. No doubt, as you have a high ranking, you will also attract students. It will be more easy to attract staff, and it's a good argument for get more money. However, it's also worth to have in mind algorithms can change from year to year. It's agile. So what you maybe has a direction 1 year, this will be different in a year after. Then you can use it for politicians. And then my last comment here for this presentation here today. However, ranking is something, but you should also always have in mind to keep the values in the organization. And I think this is possible, but then at the same time use the ranking as let's say as a part of the strategic things in the university. With that, thank you very much for the interest of my topic here, and in case you have some questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Blaubier, for sharing your thoughts on academic rankings and their relevance for university management and strategy, and how your institution has been able to perform better year on year and what strategies work well for you. So it was really insightful and engaging for us. We get any questions on the platform, we will surely forward them on to you. But okay, thank you so much for taking out time today.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, sir. So after that very enriching keynote address, we now move on to an interesting higher education debate on the topic Quality in Higher Education, All Talk and No Action. I invite Dr. Ashwin Fernandez to introduce the speakers, both for and against the motion, and moderate the debate.
Thank you so much, Prachi. And again, welcome to everybody joining us. I'm very excited to be moderating the second debate. The first one was in the Punjab edition, and it's great to have all of you listening in. I've seen so many comments. So welcome to the big HE debate. And before I move ahead, I would like to introduce the topic for today first, which is quality in higher education, all talk and no action. Now, that is a big topic, and to debate that out today, I have speaking for the motion. That means they believe that, or at least they will be debating today on this topic for quality in higher education, all talk and no action. For the motion, we have Mr. Rajiv Naithani, Global Head for HR at Infogame, and Ms. Anuradha Sharma, Country Manager at Oracle Academy. Welcome to both of you, to Rajiv and Anuradha, for speaking for the motion. This can be tough, but I know you all have agreed to do this, and it might not be something you believe in completely, but for the sake of an academic debate, I'm so pleased that you all have agreed to do this. And speaking against the motion, we have a panel, a duo of two power-packed individuals, Dr. Amita Dev, Vice Chancellor at Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women, and Dr. A.Q. Ansari, Professor at Jamia Millia Islamia University. So welcome to the four panelists we have today. This is not a presentation. There are going to be questions. The public is going to be wanting to know your opinion, and we are going to see how we can sway the results. So first and foremost, before we begin, can we get Anuradha, if your camera is, if you can come on camera as well? Do we have you with us?
Who has posted a message saying I'm facing issues, so she's gonna be logging again.
Okay, fine. So we'll wait for Anuradha to come back. So before that, this is a heavy topic. It is a topic which discussed and which has been discussed previously. And as the previous speaker mentioned, he mentioned two quotes in the presentation. One of them is, a university is not exactly what it is, but how people see it. And the second quote is, good is not good enough unless you're known to be good. So is higher education good in India? How is it progressing? What are the steps it's taking? And what is the perception does industry have? Because the industry is debating for the motion, and we have against the motion as well. We're going to be tackling those questions, saying what is different and telling us why they don't agree with this topic. So first, let's get our public who's watching us to poll in. So if you can have the screen shared and the link for the polling, please. So those who are on both our YouTube and our Sarcon platforms, tell us, what do you think? Do you think quality in higher education is all talk and no action? Do you agree or do you disagree with this? So we'll wait for a few minutes to see those polls coming in. We currently have 83%. There is somebody who's playing this in the background, so you might want to pause it maybe in the YouTube also, because I can hear myself speaking. One of our panelists has maybe a second window open. Okay, so we have the polls coming in, 82% at agree and 18% at disagree. Can we check whose mic is that? Okay, I think it's gone off now. Yeah. So the votes are coming in. It is a strong debate here. Perhaps something which I think for the motion speakers will be easy to substantiate that and make their point. And I think a hard game for Professor Amita and Professor Ansari to sway those results into disagree, to change the opinion of the people watching. So it's going to be a tough one. We'll just wait for a few more minutes. It is a strong one here, 72% agree, 28% disagree. So with that, we have Anuradha with us as well. Welcome, Anuradha. We can see you, and I think we can hear you as well. Yeah. Brilliant. So I'm going to be starting off the debate first.
Yeah. Am I clear? Yeah, I was facing some issues. Yeah.
Perfect. We have you with us, Anuradha. So let us start. Each one of you are going to get 5 minutes. I'm going to have first Mr. Rajiv, who's going to be speaking for the motion. So over to you, Mr. Rajiv. Make your point precisely for 5 minutes, and the next panelist is going to go on after this, Professor Amita. If you can listen to that and see how you can tackle those questions and the statement and make your point so we can sway the results at the end of this 1 hour. So over to you, Rajiv. You're muted and you might require to be unmute.
Hi, Ashwin, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So thanks for giving me this opportunity, and the poll result has indicated some silver lining for me to actually put forward my perspective. I come from the technology industry, and despite of all the odds, because of the pandemic, we have seen there's no real business impact in the industry as such. And we have been really hiring and struggling big time with respect to the qualified skilled engineers. And due to the limited talent pool availability, cost efficiency, and having the right mix of diversified talent, it's important for companies like us to hire young graduates from campuses. However, the big challenge which we continue to face is the availability of the quality engineers passing out of the engineering schools. And trust me, it has been more than a decade. Every time we discuss about employability being an issue, in 10 years, the percentage possibly I would have heard 1/4 of the population being non-employable. The ratio possibly has not moved from a needle perspective during these 10 years. So practically, there has been a lot of talk about this, but true actions have been missing. I'm not saying it's a failure of academia as such. It's a collective failure of our education system, academia, corporate, and government. And every time we try fixing this issue at surface level, we get into formalities of opening a lab in the institutions or a COE, trying to create learn by doing approach. But really, that has not actually gone into the context of improving the quality and sustainability. And I believe there are fundamental points and issues which are driving this. The first one is our primary education itself has not changed over a period of time. When I look back from now to a few decades back when I was in school, really not much has changed, barring those international schools where we get to see that the education process has evolved and become very different and of international levels. But majority of Indians, they actually still go to the education or they get those education which were similar to what we have experienced or I had experienced a few decades back. Number two is, when we look at it from academia perspective, I think the speed at which the future-ready professionals are being created is very slow. The entire focus is all about creating a job. There's no talk which happens about how can we create more technologists, scientists, and entrepreneurs. The admission process in the college itself is based on the placement ratios. And rather, what the silver lining I see is that because of the social media and internet and MOOC sites, the social learning has actually seeded in well. So it is not the academic journey of education which is benefiting people who are going through this process, but the social learning and the technology-based context which has enabled better situation for people. The third thing is, as I said, I come from a technology industry. The technology mix which we see, which has been changing rapidly. Every time there's a combination of skills which are emerging, whether it's a front-end, back-end technology context, but we don't see that pace of change in the academia. And the fourth thing is, when I actually look at candidates, when we are hiring campus graduates and when I meet and interview them and ask about the project they have done as part of the journey and try understanding the depth of it, I realize that most of them actually do the copy-paste instead of really committing themselves. So somewhere academia needs to bring in these strict evaluation process and also governance to monitor that really people are learning by doing it and there's a meat to what they present. And the fifth thing is in majority of the engineering colleges, and I'm not actually saying, I'm not labeling colleges as such, so please don't take me wrong, but what I'm saying from a majority of the engineering colleges, as you would have seen in the previous session of Professor Fred, where he talked about the 16,500 universities which are not even ranked, right? So look at the quantum from that point of view and look at the faculty of those colleges. Where do they come from? What is their background? What kind of practical experience do they bring on the table? Are they competitive enough to compete with the practical experience of the corporate world? That itself will give you a clarity that how far are we from the reality. And last but not the least is, I know that a lot of colleges, majority of the colleges, they struggle with the funds to invest on their R&D. And that is where actually the problem lies, where since they can't actually invest, they can't provide that ecosystem for their students to really flourish and really become effective in the process. So these are some of the points which actually forces me to think and conclude that there has been a lot of talk which has happened in last 10, 15 years, but really the outcome has been very, very marginal. It has not really made a big difference. So I'll stop it here, keeping in mind that you have given me limited time, and I'll come back to the debate again. Dr. Ashwin, back to you.
That's brilliant, Rajiv. I think it wasn't difficult to make those points because the audience already has overwhelmingly said that they agree with the motion. You have talked about being the future-ready graduates, talked about how the quality of the faculty members, learning by doing, and also most important, the research and development, the kind of investment the colleges perhaps are not able to put in. So you have made a bold statement, and now we'll go against the motion where Professor Amrita Dev will talk about why she doesn't agree with this and perhaps why the motion is not right. And again, make her statement again. So you have 5 minutes to make the statement, Professor Amrita Dev, Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women. Over to you, Professor Amrita.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ashwin. It was indeed good to hear the views of Mr. Rajiv. He has talked about primary education and saying that there has not been iota of a change. Perhaps I disagree to this. I come with an experience of more than 3 decades in the education sector alone. And I have watched and worked very closely with the education sector. The primary education, with the launch of the NEP, has changed significantly, even before that also, and more so with this NEP coming up with 5+3+3+4 kind of a system. And in the education system, we had never thought of and thinks of doing by learning by doing. Investments in the schools by way of labs, utter labs, tinkering labs, where it is like Jugaad, Tor for Jod. Those kind of the workshops happening. Especially if you look at Delhi, I have seen Delhi, investment in the happiness curriculums, investment in the entrepreneurship curriculums, it is a game changing, absolutely. When he's talking about placements is the only fact through which the colleges are running, somehow I disagree, because placement is not the only one a parameter which talks about quality education. Perhaps it is one of the manifestation, and there are many parameters which comes into this. I'll talk a little later. He's talking about the skills. I believe now with the NEP, the whole thirst is on from rote learning to cognitive skills to critical thinking, analytical things, application-based learning. With the NEP, the whole thirst is definitely there are challenges. Rote learning to cognitive skills to critical thinking, analytical things, application-based learning, research and development, wherein we expect that it will reach up to 1%. Now the reason and the rationale behind it. I personally feel, since I have worked
they can't provide the ecosystem for
India has remarkably transformed the higher education
really become
in the past
effective in the process. So these are some of the points which actually forces me to think and conclude that there has been a lot of talk which has happened in the last 10-15 years, but really the outcome has been very, very marginal. It has not really made a big difference. So I'll stop it here, keeping in mind that you have given me limited time, and I'll come back to the debate again. Dr. Ashwin, back to you.
16% literacy.
That's brilliant, Rajiv. I think it wasn't difficult to make those points because the audience already has overwhelmingly said that they agree with the motion. You have talked about being future-ready graduates, talked about how the quality of the faculty members, learning by doing, and also most important, the research and development, the kind of investment the colleges perhaps are not able to put in. So you have made a bold statement, and now we'll go against the motion where Professor Amrita Dev will talk about why she doesn't agree with this and perhaps why the motion is not right. It's
and
and
also, if
again,
you see,
make a
in the
statement
past few
again. So you
decades,
have
he is
5
very
minutes
right to
to
say,
make the statement,
technology is
Samika
taking
Dev,
turns.
Vice
Today we are
Chancellor
living in a
of
digital
Indira
era.
Gandhi
Everywhere the technology is changing
Delhi
fast, and
Technical
not even a
University,
single
Kolkata.
sector is there
Over to
where
you, Prof.
technology
Samika.
is not haunting us.
Thank
But
you,
then, if
Dr.
you look
Ashwin.
at the latest
It was
FICCI and
indeed
EY report of
good to
2021,
hear the views.
undoubtedly there have been a lot of challenges in the higher education system which are not deniable, but then at the same time, enormous amount of opportunities which have been created with the help of the government, stakeholders, AICT, UGC, etc. If I talk of AICTE, I have worked very closely even with AICTE, right from a regulatory body to a facilitator. I have seen this transformation happening. The kind of the quality education, if we talk of, it encompasses the faculty, the right kind of the faculty, right kind of input. So things have transformed. In fact, today only when I was looking into one of the newspaper, it is talking about that, yes, we are moving from right to education to right education. We are moving from well-informed minds to well-informed minds, and from ability to attitude. There is a paradigm shift in the teaching, learning, outcome-based learning, improvements in the academic reputation, industry institute linkages, etc. There have been labs. We are talking about that the students are just copying. Maybe it is there. I'm not saying, because look at India. Every sixth person on this planet is an Indian with 1.35 billion population. So there could be their chances, but then the kind of the reforms which government has taken, idea labs. Now these idea labs have been developed, which works 45 idea labs, which works 24/7. Government is investing heavily onto the entrepreneurship and innovation sectors. Perhaps I feel there is so much available, but there is lack of clarity. Awareness is missing. Similarly, if I look into the students for the first time, if you go onto the AICT portal, if you look at it, they have established a NEET portal. There is an assessment which was done by Stanford, and now this assessment will be made available to all students, which talks about Stanford based assessment portal. A student will be able to assess internships, if I talk of, because earlier what used to happen was that internship used to be only at the end of 6th semester. If I talk of engineering, today we are talking about 6 months internship. What we are talking is to bridge the gap between industry and academia. At the end of every year, a student is going. Not only that we have made a policy, we are helping them out. More than 65 lakh students today, they are registered on the NEET portal. More than 4.4 lakh internships offers are available on that portal. More than 275 high-tech industries are connected with us. And if I talk about the vocational education and the skills and the mindset, 55 job roles have been identified, 50 technologies have been identified, 555 skill sets have been identified. And the transformations, if I say that in the education sector are not there, I will highly disagree, because with the choice-based credit system, I am providing MOOC. I'm providing curriculum which is flexible. I'm providing break. If a woman wants to take a break, the credits are being secured. I'm talking about 40% I can have credits from the MOOC. So there has been a paradigm shift. India has become a land of opportunities. The only thing which I personally feel is lack of awareness. We need to provide awareness. FDPs, if I talk, more than 1 lakh of teachers have been trained only during the time of pandemic.
Stop you there,
I'll
Professor
come back to my points a little later. Few more points.
You get a few minutes. So you made some valid points.
The point I'm trying to say is that in the past 1 decade, enormous transformation has happened right in the education sector up to higher education sector. And India is becoming a land of opportunities where these young minds can thrive. The only thing is awareness. Thank you. Over to you.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Professor Amita. I think you have raised valid points that, when we got independence, we were disadvantaged at that time. We are a nation with, with a population which requires to be educated more than research. But let me also share an insight with you. The amount which India spends on R&D, which also impacts the society, is at its lowest. Now, when we looked at the top 20 countries in the world which spend on research and development, and we looked at the world university rankings, 20 countries in the world which have the top spending in R&D make up 650 universities in the 1,000 ranked universities. 20 countries. We have over 90 countries which represent the universities in the world ranking. So to have the small representation, and you have made a valid point there. And you have made a valid point there. The any challenges is going to be revolutionary. Will take an impact. But will take an impact. It is at the moment a challenge. It is, and I think we have, and I think we have responsibility to educate a huge responsibility more than anything else. So some valid points more than anything else. So some valid points. I would like to go for that to Anuradha to make her point. Again, you can tackle some of the points. Again, you can tackle some of the questions which I have made by mentioned. And you can make the point for the motion. What do you think as industry? Why do you agree quality in higher education is all talk but no action? Go ahead, Anuradha. We can hear you. You can make your point. Go ahead, Anuradha. We can hear you. You can make your point.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Anuradha. We
Thank you so much,
we can hear you. You can make your point.
So, thanks. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. Organizers here and NIET for giving this opportunity to me. And I would like to have a disclaimer here first that the views that I'm expressing are my personal views, and this doesn't represent the views of my organization that I work for. And so yes, now coming to the topic, and I agree to some parts of it that many reforms have been done since independence, and there have been so many institutions opened during this whole 75 years of independence, and a lot has been done. The question here is not about the quantity. The question here is about the quality. So when I come to the quality part, I am expressing myself or speaking my views as a stakeholder in the higher education. And when I say as a stakeholder, I think each one of us who is here as a speaker or as a panelist or moderator or attendee, as a student and as a industry person who is attending here, or anybody as a citizen of India, I think everybody has a stake in the higher education. So when I say as a student, definitely that is the first stakeholder. When I say the parent, generally in India, parents pay for students' education. So parent is also a big stakeholder here. When it comes to industry, so expectations from the from the industry in terms of training and collaboration with the colleges, with the institutions of higher education, so industry does have some expectations there, and also in terms of hiring of the students for the jobs, that also comes from the industry side. Now, as a citizen of India, definitely the better the education system, whether it is higher education, whether it is general education system, whether it is engineering or any other stream, the better the education system, the better our citizens are informed, and they are good to take informed decisions, and definitely it helps in the growth of the country, and in turn helps in the growth of individuals in the country. So now when I go now to the quality, I think there are various parameters we are talking about here. The data points, I think already my previous speakers since morning have put a lot of data points about how many universities have opened, how many how many are in rural parts, and so many data. But I will like to focus on these parameters, like of course enrollment. So I think if we talk about enrollment, still we are far behind in terms of enrollment. It's only the ratio is only 25.2, whereas I think in the US and all, it's and in other developed countries or developing countries, many of it's more than 70 around. So when I talk about infrastructure, of course, budget deficit is there, and particularly with the new COVID, the infrastructure is, has taken a total flip side, because now everything is online. So I don't know how much budget now Indian government is going. It's just, I think, 0.6% of the complete budget that is being allocated. So I think from that aspect also, if we see about quality, so I'm just taking out all the parameters of what generally are taken when accreditations are done, or when we measure quality. Then definitely equity part, if we talk about. So in equity also, it's majorly skewed. So when we talk about the underprivileged or unprivileged society, the participation is hardly 15% in the higher education. When I talk about accreditations also, I think I don't have the latest report, but yes, in I think some of the past year reports was clearly mentioned. Only I think 25% of the were given around A accreditation of the higher education institutions. When we talk about faculty, it's 30:1 ratio on an average for India. Whereas if you talk about US, it is, I think the ratio is somewhere between 12.5:1. So I think these are the terms which we are considering when we are talking about quality. And then, of course, the curriculum, I think a lot has been said by my, other peer here, Rajiv, about the curriculum is backdated, and others also have kind of, spoken about that. Now, one major, I think, focus where everybody is focusing on is the outcome, I think. So when we talk about outcome, what are we talking about? Is it life skills? Is it innovation? Is it research? Is it skill? Is it knowledge? Is it attitude? Is it critical thinking? Is it problem solving skills? Is it, high order thinking, low order thinking? Is it entrepreneurial mindset, growth mindset, creativity? And I think it's a 360 degree when it comes to the, higher education particularly. And there are, and we are only talking about jobs here. Whenever we speak, and that too is so skewed, hardly 30% of them are employable. Forget about all the other things here. So when we talk about, so here, if we take all these other things, which I just mentioned, the list, and the list is endless. So now what I think we need to think about action. What are the actions that are we taken? How are we dividing our goals? So because I come from industry, how do we divide? There are some short-term goals, there are some medium-term goals, and there are some long-term goals. So how do we take what out of these can be achieved in the shorter term? How we can go in the medium term, and what can we, ultimately we have to achieve all this, and much more beyond this, so that our next generation, our young generation is always, ready to take on the challenges, and always ready to bring that innovation and bring that, zeal into for their own development and for the country's development. So I think if we can start working on that, I think that will. So I'll conclude, I think, my points here.
Indeed, Anuradha, that's a very passionate stand you have taken on your personal, you say, it's a personal view. You've definitely talked about the gross enrollment ratio, and we had Professor Punia earlier today who talked about how perhaps the gross enrollment ratio is not the right way to look at it, because many of them might not be even qualified to get into the system. So they are looking at a new term, and I can't remember what the term is called, but really you have made some good points there on equity as well for the underprivileged. And also the accreditations have shown that only 25% of the institutions were given the A grade. So definitely there has been, and you have made a stronger point there. And I would like to take these points, especially on the points of whether quality assessment systems like rankings or ratings or accreditation are able to capture that right now. Because, as I said, we have a challenge. We have to educate a nation, and the state at which we were left at independence is not great. So we are still overcoming those challenges even today. So over to Professor Ansari to make your to have your stand, to make your point, and have the results swayed on perhaps why it is not the right statement that quality in higher education is all talk, no action. So over to you, Professor Ansari from Jamia Millia Islamia, to make your statement, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwin. My dear colleagues, Rajiv, Madam Amita Dev, and Madam Anuradha. You see, already you have been put on defensive by the very polling that you did, and we were told that now the majority has polled in the favor of the motion. But I am thankful to my colleague, Dr. Amita Dev, who has defended those points very amicably. And also, as you said, that I have to talk in terms of whatever has been said already. Of course, as Rajiv himself admits that there has been a marginal increase. So he admits that there has been some increase. Now, marginal has to be defined in a very nice way as in respect of the population that we cater to in the country. So there has been an increase, and which is visible, and then only Rajiv has been saying that. Moreover, ever since independence, as our Dr. Amita said herself, what was the situation in the country and from where did we start? When Jawaharlal Nehru took over the mantle of the country, he appointed the very wise person as the education minister, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who was perhaps the best suited person for the education field, and therefore all the institutions came up, and the education got the best of the shape at that time. And all those the regional engineering colleges and the best of the colleges and the universities were not opened into the capital cities of the states, but they rather went to the smaller towns of the states, wherein they could cater to the rural masses and could encourage the people from those areas to study. Now, the quality parameters that we have been talking, and of course, we do admit at some point of time that yes, the expectations of the industries have not been met. And we see that our graduates, a good number of graduates have not been catering and have not been up to the mark as the industries have been demanding. But at the same time, we also see that those who are the good stuff, those who are the products whom we really consider as a better lot, they also do not find a place in the Indian industry. The country at one point of time was, worried about the brain drain, and those all students used to go out of the country either to pursue their higher education or to get a job of their standing, and which was commensurate with the knowledge and qualification they had. So the Indian industries also did not have the consumption for those students who could pass out. Now lately we can see that the Indian students and the engineers, which were product of our own institutes, have been so good in terms of their knowledge of the IT, information and communication technology, that in the world we did not only could catch up with the IT revolution, but we could rather become a leader of the IT revolution in the world, knowing very well that the first industrial revolution and the second industrial revolution, the country had missed at that time because of the lack of resources and the lack of infrastructure. So, how could it happen that we could become a leader of the IT revolution? That is one indicator that there has been action. It is not a matter of, the debate is not about what was the end result. The debate is about what has been the action on the part of the country. And the leaders at the helm of affairs who are there, who have been guiding and motivating us, they have taken a lot of action. And it is all visible also. It is in the public domain as well. And there has been a paradigm shift, and the focus has not only been in terms of opening the new institutions and bringing out, more and more colleges and universities. Dr. Amita rightly said that there has been 1,352 universities now, which can be briefly categorized 54 central universities, 429 state universities, 95 institutes of national importance, 171 deemed to be universities, and 392 private universities. These are institutions that have come up. They have not come without action. They have not come up without action. Moreover, the focus of the government of India now is to put emphasis on the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the STEM. There have been many actions into that regard. And, the initiatives like affordable and accessible healthcare, big data and genomics, data science research initiatives, interdisciplinary cyber-physical systems, cognitive science research initiatives, etc., have provided the necessary impetus towards this trend. The focus on the ICT courses, especially the MCA program, which was proposed by the then Professor V. Rajaraman, who was a professor of electrical engineering at IIT Kanpur and who has been occupying now a chair position at R.I.S.E. Bangalore. He was the man who could visualize the need of the people who can make use of the computers, and that is how the IT professionals were created in the country. So that is one thing. Moreover, it's not only the technology and producing the technocrats and the scientists or the engineers, but it's also the matter of producing humans. The focus of the country now and those accreditation agencies like National Board of Accreditation or the NAC, the focus of the study these days in the institutions has been to create humans. There have been 12 graduate attributes which have been defined by the Washington Accord. Apart from the fundamental knowledge of science and technology, the fundamental knowledge of analyzing a given situation, designing a problem which is fittest to the given problem. There are many aspects of life in which we need to prepare our graduates for sensitive towards our environment, sensitive to our society, giving back to the society from where they have come. Working in a group, or working individually, ethics. These are also the aspects which are, have been put as the parameters of assessment of the individuals and the graduates which are coming from the colleges. Especially the National Board of Accreditation has been putting emphasis on that. So, my dear friends, all said and done, I can also assume that the actions have not been missing. And all those initiatives that have been taken, starting from the beginning, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 2.0, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 3.0, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras, Jan Shikshan Sansthans, capacity building schemes, UDAN, school initiatives and higher education, India International Skill Centers, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching, and several others. The list is just suggestive, not exhaustive. Moreover, various digital initiatives in India have also contributed tremendously.
I have to stop you there for exceeding the time. So I have to stop you there and we'll come back to you. So you have talked about actions and the various actions taken. The outcome might be slower, which perhaps is not visible to the industry as yet. So I want to take this question to Rajiv, and I think I'm going to be asking you. My question to you is: and there are several actions. Both Professor Amita Dev and Professor Ansari have said that there are several actions. The new education policy has been revolutionary, is going to change it. So does that change your mind on the topic for the future?
Sure, thank you. I'll say that when we talk about the human civilization, and it has been a progressive journey for all of us, right? So saying that post-independence, comparing the two data points may not be the right proposition in my view. And, with all due respect, I'm actually bringing this context against the perspective which Professor Amita actually shared. There are two things which I want to disagree there. One is, I respect that the transformation in the education segment, primarily the primary and school education segment, which Professor Amita did talk about. I'm also associated to an NGO as a board of trustee, and we go to remote villages of Uttarakhand state for education purposes to support and fund underprivileged kids. And trust me, the condition of schools, I would have not, I'm talking about now, and the situation possibly 3 decades back or 2 decades back was there. I see similar situation today from infrastructure, basic support, even teachers not available, same teacher teaching everything, etc. So that's a real condition of the rural India. When we talk about changes and transformation from a urban India perspective, or cities like Delhi or capital like Delhi, I understand changes will happen. It's a progressive journey, right? Every other country has also progressed. When we look at the journey when they started it from to where they have reached. That's one point. Second point was related to the number of universities which came up. Now, I'll actually pick the point which my co-panelist Anuradha was talking about in terms of quality versus quantity. We did phenomenal job in terms of quantity, but really the quality is a challenge. And now let me bring the experiential perspective here. When we hire engineers who have gone through 4 years of rigorous learning intervention, if I support the opponent perspective here, then why should they not be readily deployable when they are hired by us? Why do we need to put them in a rigorous training program for 3 to 6 months to ensure that they are deployable from a corporate requirement perspective? Honestly, the technology companies have actually turned training companies when it comes to hiring freshers. The third point, with respect to the Professor Ansari, when he talked about the technology side evolution in Indian context, with all due respect, I agree. We are one of the hub. Outsourcing, people like me are having a bread and butter because of technology industry, because I've lived my life in technology industry throughout. But the issue is when we talk about quality, please look at the hacker rank, the hacker rank of technology industry, because I've lived my life in technology industry throughout. But the issue is when we talk about quality, please look at the hacker ranking is 31. The hacker rank of technology industry, because I've lived my life in technology industry throughout. So that talks about. But the issue is when we talk about quality, their journey. Please look at the hacker ranking is 31. One is hacker rank of technology industry, because I've lived my life in technology industry throughout. So that talks about. The issue is when we talk about quality, their journey. Please look at the hacker ranking is 31. One is hacker rank of technology industry, because I've lived my life in technology industry throughout. So that talks about. The issue is when we talk about quality, their journey. Look at the hacker.
This is perhaps the last time we're going around. You can make your concluding statement as well with this, and I'll give you a few minutes for that.
Yeah, it's again very nice to hear my co-panelist and the opponent Rajiv. Definitely look at India, how big the India is. Definitely the rural segment, a lot of opportunities are there, which needs to we need to provide and bridge the gap. Definitely you need good teachers, you need all kind of the right infrastructure. Definitely, again, I am going by definitely there has been an action. When we say no action, that is a point I'm trying to make. There has been a substantial action which has been there. I know a place where in India, my own student, after doing 12th or a graduation from anywhere, fails to take up admission to the top-notch IITs, IIMs, etc. And the same student very easily is able to crack even Harvard. I know instances where my student has gone and has cracked those examinations in Harvard. They've cracked examinations in Stanford, but they found it difficult to crack even IITs and IIMs, which means their bases have been strong. Their mathematics have been strong. When I work with the student exchange program and I get the students from abroad, believe me, 86 plus 86, they ask for a calculator. Some of them, I'm not saying all, but some of them. And our students are able to do it immediately. IT, definitely technology. India has become the hub to supply technology people across the world. I mean it, across the world. And they are being paid the best. My own student is being paid. We are not NITs, we are not IITs, we are not ICERs. We are typically women, STEM education, only women. My student, during this COVID time, they have got opportunities of internship of 2 months with 1.6 lakhs per annum and job opportunities highest 70 lakhs per annum, and not one student, 200 students. We made the highlights in the newspapers. I'm not saying we are the one. The India as such, we have made progress, but yes, there are challenges. And finally, I'm talking of a practical thing. One of the best company, I will not like to name the company, but they are into the investment banking. All across the world, the people were invited in USA for the training, and anyone who reaches late had to have a punishment that they will sing their national anthem. So when it came down to the USA, that is the biggest company who pays in crores, and from USA, 2 persons are standing up. From other countries, 3 or 4. When it came down to India, 55% stood up out of 150. When it came down to China, 35% stood up. When it came down to Japan, only 28 stood up. So if you look at in the world over, Indians are Indians. Indian minds are educated minds. They are being acknowledged for it. The moment you are an Indian, people are ready to take you and you are educated. Definitely, there are blocks. There are blockages and hurdles. We are in the technology era. Technology is moving very fast. Your point is well taken. We need to bridge that gap. We are a little slower in changing our technology, but thanks to MOOC platforms and others, we need to guide our students to go there, learn the latest technologies. There are challenges, but I say Indian minds are the best. Indian higher education system, we are poised to do the best in the future. And we will show to the future, look, wait, Indians are coming. Thank you.
That's brilliant from Samita. Some some valid points there, and I think that makes it's probably where the companies here today need to go into Professor Amita Dev's university to check out her students as well. With that, what I would like to do before I go to the last round of discussion, I would like to send the poll again. So if Professor Amita and Professor Ansari have been able to change your mind on the topic and you would like to vote, agree or disagree, the polling has opened now. You can start to put in your polls there, or if you think, well, there is still a point made by Rajiv and Anuradha that it's even more stronger, please tell us about it. I don't want to influence anything, but I'm just stimulating the discussion here. So now over to Anuradha. You have heard both the discussions here. You've heard the points, and I think this is your chance to sway those results further. And as Professor Amita mentioned, there are several Indians that are making waves around the world. Some of the big corporations in India are headed by Indians. So what do you think? What's your closing statement?
Yeah, so actually I missed because of the lot of lag while Dr. Amita was speaking. So, but to mention, as you mentioned, some of the points like, so definitely there are certain successes. And now the question is, and there are definitely some, torch bearers in the education industry, like some of the IIMs and some of the colleges like LSR and Dr. Amita's college, the IG college. And now here what we are talking about, not one particular or those top 10 or 15 colleges. We are talking about the higher education overall. So when we compare that individual successes of individual colleges to the success of overall, I think then again the point comes, how many kind of innovations have we done? How many innovations have happened and how many successful startups have come up after being graduated from higher education? Yes, jobs. The point that our opponents are making is that students get jobs abroad, or this is the IT hub. So again, we are serving. We are not innovators there. We are not producing. So what you call, we are actually helping US and other economies to make their economies more stronger, and the revenue is ultimately going there and not being kept in the India. So ultimately, I think if we look at that, and again it is a vicious circle, because again our economy is not thriving, then again we have lower budgets for the education. It's kind of a vicious circle there. So I think somewhere once And there has been, as at my first point I said, there has been work, like a lot of institutions have been built up since independence. But are we there? Are we yet there where we want to reach? How far we are from where we want to reach? That is the bigger question.
Thank you so much, Anuradha. You have mentioned some great points on, there are success stories, but and perhaps Indians are making waves outside India, helping other economies. But really, is it the trend in India that we are not seeing those institutions in top rankings, in top accreditation? They're not reflecting. So I would like to go over to Professor Ansari for his concluding statement on it's your moment to sway the polls. I'll request my colleagues to please send the link again to those on YouTube and on the platform, because we'd like all of you to tell us whether you have changed your mind after hearing the discussions today. So over to Professor Ansari.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. Great told by our friends. There is no doubt that all our industries have been providing training to our. Sorry, is my video clear? It's okay now. Yeah, see, in our colleges and institutions, we do not provide the students which are the knowledge which is tailored for a particular industry. We try to provide the generic knowledge. We train them and prepare them to be ready for any specific knowledge that is required to be learned elsewhere. They would be easily able to grasp it. So our effort is not for a focus towards any specific industry or a specific organization. And therefore, it is but natural that all those industries which will hire our graduates, they will have to provide the training which will be tailor-made for their purpose, for their work. That is one point. And also, it is again, our focus and effort is never for those selected people who are excelling in the world. We never asked them to go abroad. They never aspired. If they had got an opportunity inside the country from our own industries, they would have probably worked here and would have excelled and had held the country. But because of the lack of opportunities for them, though we did not intend to prepare such quality so that they would go outside, but because of the lack of opportunity within, they tried to go away. But when they went there, they found the infrastructure, they found the opportunities, and they excelled. And they became the masters. And even our own scientists in the science area, not only in the technology. We remember the boson, we remember the people, one of our Indian who was the chairman of the British committee, Venki Ramakrishnan. So some of them are really good. So what we need to do here is to create opportunities also for the students so that they may be absorbed within the country and they would be excelling. There is no doubt that our institutions and the government of India as such and their various elements and organizations which have been helping, they have been focusing on the generic knowledge of the students and also trying to inculcate such qualities which will help them in becoming a good citizen of the country, a good human being, have all those attributes in them that are required to become a leader, not only a democrat, but they should also have those qualities which are required normally and naturally into a human. Multiple in it. We do not provide any tailor-made knowledge. Of course, there have been many success stories which are, and the companies are now approaching to introduce certain elements into their syllabus, which will help their companies. When they come out, they will be absorbed right over there. But we can't do that. We have not accepted such offers because we want our students to be ready for the entire spectrum of the industries which are available outside. So that is one point that I would make here. And thank you very much for providing me this opportunity at this forum to have some discussion. And I fully agree that we at our end and the government of India at its own end have been making a lot of action, taking a lot of action for making the higher education excel and compete with the world around. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Ansari, and that's a great discussion amongst all your four panelists with us today. I think you've made some valid points, and you've also tackled what the opponents have to say as well. So I would like to thank you for joining this very healthy debate. It has brought to surface many questions, more than answers, and one of them is collaboration between the industry and academia. I think that's a discussion which needs to have even more so now, and we're looking at what's happening. Secondly, the kind of work being done with the national education policy and the various initiatives perhaps will take time, and that is when, and that's probably a wait and watch scenario. But I think there are small pockets of institutions in the country which are doing some excellent stuff, and that is what it will be reflected in the near future in the various mechanisms which are there. So as a country, we have a challenge. We do have a long way to go, but I think the system needs to start to work closely with the industry, and that's one of the major outcomes today, is because we can see a clear disconnect between them. And the point of Indians making it abroad, I think that's again alarming, because we've seen Indians go out for after they finish their graduation, they go for post-graduation. So if we had quality institutions in India, would they still go? If we could offer them the kind of perhaps the packages which are available at companies abroad, would they still go? So again, that's something which academia and industry needs to work together for the future. I will put the poll results on, and let's see whether there has been any change in the results. So we have 76% actually agree. So we had a slight increase in the agree there, with almost the same number of participants that polled in earlier, and 24% disagree. So the Rajiv and Anuradha were able to sway it slightly towards themselves by their statements. And Professor Amita and Professor Ansari, we have to thank you for being such great sport of this. This is just a discussion, but I'm sure it has brought to forth many points for us to work together. And I'm sure the industry here today and the universities here today will collaborate in the future to understand what exactly do they want and what each person wants. And I think what we want is a nation which is thriving, which is doing better, and our Indians should be taking our economy to the next level. So with that, thank you so much to all four of you. Really great, Professor Amita, Mr. Rajiv, Professor Ansari, and Ms. Anuradha. Great panel discussion and debate here. I would like to thank you for joining me today.
I thank all the debate participants and our moderator, Dr. Ashwin, for this engaging and exciting exchange of ideas. We will now take a short lunch break and will be back at 1:15 p.m. to continue the conference. I also urge all the delegates and speakers to use this break for networking on the virtual platform. So see you all at 1:15.
Dr. Chitkara, who's the head PR and RI for the KIT group of institutions. Dr. Chitkara has been honored with numerous awards over the years, including the International Women Achiever Award 2021. She has over 15 years of experience in the field of education, with research papers and articles published in numerous national and international anthologies. She's a popular blogger and has published a very well-known and appreciated anthology called Blues Under the Silver Hues, an endeavor to retrieve smiles. Without further ado, Dr. Chitkara, I'm going to hand the scene over to you for an allocated time of 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
Yukti Yukta Pradanyat Paladapi Vichakshana Raver Vishyam Vastukim Nadipo Prakashet. The wise should learn to accept wisdom from anyone, even from a child. Doesn't the small night lamp light up things when and which the sun can't do? Thereby, learning must be universal, without boundaries. With this thought, I extend my warm greetings to the esteemed audience and heartfelt thanks to QS IGAUGE for providing us this platform to share the case studies of our institutions on internationalization of colleges. I request to share my presentation. Next. Next, please. Next. So before we leap into the internationalization of colleges, let me share what is internationalization. Higher education scholar J. Knight defines it as a process of introduction of international constituents in research, education, administration to the function of higher education. It is designing a product in a way that it may be readily consumed across multiple countries and maybe having that appeal and distribution that can meet the international markets and increase its footprint and capture greater market in the global world. Next, please. Internationalization of colleges includes integrating the policies and practices undertaken by academic systems and institutions to deal with the global academic environment. It integrates international, intercultural, or global dimensions in education, tailors the changes in curriculum and infrastructure as per the global need. It helps in collaborating with foreign universities for exchange programs and incorporates international standards in teaching and learning pedagogy. Next, sir. So India, since early times, has been and continues to be promoted as a global study destination, providing premium education at affordable costs. In addition to the traditional institutes of Nalanda and Takshila, universities in India, even today, attract more than 40,000 international students from across the different countries, probably more than 164. But the growth in this number has slackened in the past few years. And perhaps that's the reason that National Education Policy, NEP 2020, has called for making a plan of action to help India restore its role as Vishwaguru. Indians usually go out with the aim of gaining knowledge, as education is the primary driver, which prompts them to go abroad in the first place. Though, post that, the extensive job market, the convenient and safe lifestyle of the various different countries make these students stay overseas. It's been widely established that students who have competitive advantage of international education enjoy a higher employability in the global job market, as these students exhibit more refined decision-making and problem-solving core skills that are relevant in all industries. That's what the reason is that NEP 20 proposed that India should be promoted as foreign study destination. Every institution should have an international students office to host foreign students. Colleges must be promoting premium education at affordable costs. Thereby, I believe that internationalization in education will lead to improved academic quality and international orientation, making stronger, more successful, and more profitable policies. It helps in broadening the academic and cultural experiences of the students, thereby making them global citizens. Naturally, the internationalization in education will provide access to the students to the world of opportunities in all possibilities and prepare the young generation for the global market. Next, sir. Now, let us move on to the case study on internationalization of KIET. Prior to moving ahead, I would request, sir, to please play the video. The great purpose of an institute can be realized better by the impartment of its education. It is to master this physical self, to transcend the beauty of nature. Delineating the same, KIET group of institutions has plunged into carving its ways to global underpinnings and create a universal benchmark. The global presence of our alumni, combined with the victory of our students at NASA, contributed to the spread of the vastness and diversity of our country. Our students won the prestigious AIAA Neil Armstrong Best Design Award in the 25th Annual Rover Challenge held at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Alabama.